All right, so today we're going to be talking about digital design tools. This is one of the last skills labs of the quarter. There's, I think, 2 more left. I'm not quite sure. We're going to be rescheduling last week's skills lab. We had to cancel it. It was survey design because the person who's going to present became ill. So we'll send you guys when that's rescheduled. Today, we're primarily going to be talking about 3 different digital design tools. I do like to start every presentation by making sure that it's clear there's a lot of text on these slides. I tend to have text-heavy slides. The purpose for that is that when I send out the slide deck, then people can just go through the deck rather than watch the video. So when you see a slide, if there's a ton of text, don't worry about reading the whole thing. I'll go through the most important parts, particularly early on in this deck. So what we're gonna do here, here are our topics. We only have about a half an hour, so I'm gonna power through some of this. We're gonna talk about why you should learn some digital design tools. Then we're going to go through really basically the elements of design, some of the language that you're going to want to use. We'll also then go into 3 free tools that you can use to learn digital design technologies. And then at the very end, I also have a bonus slide which has some tips for how to teach yourself design. Some of the knowledge we present in the elements of design, it's pretty abstract. It's really more about vocabulary. But in terms of applying that knowledge, we have a great resource we're going to share with you at the very end. All right, so let's get started with the elements of design, or let's start, sorry, with why to gain these skills. What's really important, and I'm sure you guys have seen this, it used to be that in different industries, you would often have a person whose whole job it was to manage a social media account. Now that's still definitely true for large brands and bigger companies. But what is increasingly true is that social media is a part of a lot of different people's jobs now. And basic design, poster design, designing social media templates, etc. All of those skills are valuable to people in a wide variety of roles. It's not just the designers who are doing design now. It's the content producers, it's the managers, etc. Even in student positions at DePaul, we have a lot of student employees who maybe do an operations or front desk role who also help with the social media or other design functions. So it's crossing into other functions in a way that it hasn't before. In addition, your stakeholders, meaning your customers, your viewers, your bosses, your colleagues, we're all getting more sophisticated every day about design. So if we want to have impact in our roles and we want an audience or a peer to understand what we're saying, it's going to be helpful to have knowledge around some of these technologies. All right. Let me go into, all right, so we're going to start with the principles of design. Again, this is really more about vocabulary, but it's helpful to start to think about how you're making some of the decisions using the technologies that we're going to talk about after this. We're going to breeze through this. It is, I mean, if you were in an art school, you would take a whole class on this in your first year. But it is something that can be learned obviously outside of a class and through exposure more than anything. But we're going to go through the vocabulary, we'll go through some of the technologies, and then I'll introduce you to some ways to teach yourself design aesthetics. So in terms of unity, unity is also known as harmony, and this is just a way we can talk about the consistency of an image or how something appears to relate. Now, so there's 2 kinds of unity in the sample. You can see unity for color here creates an image that looks like it's intended to be together even though the shapes are different sizes, versus a different kind of unity here on the right hand side, which is more about size. And it's not that everything on an image has to look like something else in the image, but it achieves a particular balance for the reader or for the viewer, and it achieves some kind of intentionality in terms of what you're looking at. Another design element is balance, and I just referenced that before. Now you can have symmetrical balance, meaning that each side is evenly weighed because the parts are really identical in the way they're distributed, or you might have an asymmetrical balance that actually works because the entire image feels like it's not going to tilt over, right? The weight makes sense for the viewer, and it's a way to draw attention to where you want the viewer's eye to go. And really that's what design is all about, is controlling the experience of the content. And when I talk about resumes, I talk about information architecture a lot, which is really about formatting. But what we're talking about here is really more the elements of design that create a particular experience or feeling of the content. Let's go to the next vocabulary word that we're going to be focusing on, hierarchy. Now, this is very important when you're trying to convey a particular message or draw attention to one thing over another. You know, everybody has a really limited attention span. So you can control the experience of a design of content by establishing hierarchy using things like the other things we've talked about: balance, color, form, shape, etc. So you can see the left-hand image has no hierarchy. You know, as a reader, if this was text, I would go into it and feel like I have to start at the beginning to get anywhere. I don't know where else I can enter. Whereas the right-hand side tells me where I can enter this content by drawing attention to different parts and making it clear that each part has a different role to play. And you can see even the design of the slide achieves a particular hierarchy in terms of the all caps bold up top, like that title is the most important part. Maybe the image is the second most important part because I don't need the words to understand hierarchy when I see the visual example of that. Contrast, another really obvious one. You can see there's a formal contrast, meaning contrast in shape or color or scale or layout. This is another way to control the experience of your content, of your design. It really helps achieve a kind of readability in terms of understanding how to guide the reader through content and to access it. It's a lot like hierarchy in that you want to use contrast to draw attention. And to establish what's important versus what's not important. So high contrast would achieve a certain, like I would have attention split between two things. Low contrast, I would feel like they were related enough that I didn't need to necessarily look at both things with the same amount of attention. Emphasis, very similar to hierarchy in that it draws my attention to one particular point. There's a lot of different ways to create emphasis in an image so that my eye goes to one place in particular and then scans the rest. They do a lot of interesting eye tracking in terms of how readers experience text, but you can even just see formally through these graphic images that contrast is one way to create emphasis, shape is another way to create emphasis, but really giving an image a focal point. And this is image or text. You know, some of this could be font choice, some of this could be the actual shapes that you're using in your design. Again, we're going to go through this abstract part pretty quickly. So if you're already like, get to Canva, don't worry, it's coming. Scale and proportion are also really important. These relate to balance, of course, and emphasis, but you can see that you can kind of manage the viewer's experience and draw attention to certain parts of a space or page or layout through scale and through proportion. And that's really one when we get into Canva. Scale is one of the easiest things to adjust in Canva. Repetition, very much like emphasis in that it creates a rhythm, a pattern that a viewer is looking for, which can sometimes help create balance or sometimes help draw attention to a particular part if you break a repetition, right? But it could be repeated lines, shapes, colors, etc. This is all really basic design elements vocabulary. Now let's get into Canva. All right, this is why we're here. Canva is the tool that I use to design all of my presentations at the moment. I will say this, I have worked with art and design students for 20 years now, and I know how to use Adobe Creative Cloud. I'm not a designer, I'm a sculptor by trade, but I've been around design a long time, and I can safely say that Canva is truly the only design templating tool that I've seen in 20 years that actually has great templates. I mean, there's some ugly stuff in there. There's stuff I wouldn't use, but the templates are sophisticated and very easy to use. So we're gonna dip right in to Canva. I'm gonna take you out of this presentation. We're gonna get right into the homepage of Canva. I'll probably try to make this a little bit bigger so that you guys can see what I'm doing. The biggest benefit of Canva, just to start off with, is that it's free. Like they will try and sell you their pro version, and depending on what you're using it for, it may be worth your time. But let's talk about the free version, because I used the free version forever before I ended up with the pro version, and I only have that through my employer. If DePaul weren't paying for it, I would probably stick with the free version because there's plenty you can do with it. So you can see if I just go to home, let me just go regular to the Canva page. All right, now you can see this navigation here. Now it's really tiny. Let me make this a little bit bigger. I might, and let me move this too really quickly. I can click on create a design up in the top right, and then I can choose from all kinds of types of designs. Instagram story, that's automatically, or Instagram post, that's automatically formatted for Instagram. You can see it's 1080 by 1080 pixels, which is already the size Instagram is gonna want it to be. You can design a presentation. You can do a flyer, a story, a logo, a poster, a card. One thing I'll say about Canva is that it is based in Australia. And so some of the documents and formats are for different countries. So for example, you can see there's US letter document, 8.5 by 11. You're also gonna see A4, which is like a different sizing for Europe primarily. But you will see some different sizes. So you can see A4 here, and that's in centimeters, of course, because they're metric. But you can do presentations, they all have templates. So let's just get into really quickly. I'm gonna start with an Instagram post. The minute you click on create a design and you pick the kind of design you want, it will give you the size formatting, and it'll default to, I'm gonna hide this right now. It'll default to the templates up here on the top left. Let me see if I can make this bigger. No, I can't make this part bigger. So you can see on the templates on the left-hand side here, there are a million different types of templates, and they are categorized. So because I'm logged into my account, it'll start with what I recently used, but it'll also be put into categories based on themes sometimes. So like food Instagram, sale Instagram, birthday Instagram, spring, wedding, etc. I'm just gonna go into coronavirus. So they have a lot of coronavirus specific stuff. And the minute you click into this section, you can see all these templates. Now you don't have to stay with every part of these templates. What I typically do is when I'm not sure which template I'm gonna use, I'll throw one and look at these within these templates, there are different pages and different options to choose from. So I'll maybe start with one, and I might, while I'm trying to decide which one I wanna use, I might then back out and put some other templates in just to play with, okay, which one works best for the content I'm doing when I start to play with it. What you'll see and what is really nice about Canva is, in Canva, everything is in a box. So I can move this around. Sorry, it's not wanting me to select it as a movable object. Oh, it's locked right now. All right. So you can see this little lock button here. This element can't be edited. So that, you're not gonna find this too often. Usually you can resize, you can move things around. You're gonna usually be able to move things around. The lock button is very rare. In fact, this is the first time I've ever seen it. So let's go into here. This one's also locked. All right, we're gonna get out of coronavirus templates. I don't know why these would be so specific. One thing to note is as you play around with these templates, I clicked on this one. Anything I click on is gonna replace what's on the page that I'm working on. So if I wanna play with a couple at one time, I'm gonna have a couple extra pages. Otherwise it will replace what I was doing. All right, we're gonna get out of these coronavirus templates. Let's do love Instagram post. So I'm gonna throw this in here. And you can't always predict on Canva which parts will be movable. Usually each of these graphics is saved in a different box. So I can delete one, I can make one much bigger, I can turn it around, I can move it, I can decide that this one should be behind this other one by clicking on this box, position, backward, now it's behind there. I can also play with transparency, which is up here. Move this around just to play with it if I want to do that. I can also then say, you know what, I don't like any of these emojis. I'm gonna take them all out, and I can select them all at one time. Let's leave love ya. I can change the font if it's not an image. Sometimes you'll see text that's actually an image, but in this case, it's not an image. So I've changed the font. I can resize font just by moving it. I can also then go to uploads and say, you know what? I want a different image as my background image. So let me just find one in here from one of my designs. A lot of my uploads are illustration, so yours will probably be more photography. So here is, let's see, this Field Museum picture. Now, if I click it, it's just gonna put it right on the top of the middle of this page. But if I drag it over, it'll often just replace the background for me. And that's by dragging. And if I take it out, Command Z is going to be your undo button. There's an undo button up here too, but you can use Command Z. So I can take this, drag it over and go, you know, that doesn't actually work really well, and do Command Z and get my original image back. But this is how, these are the uploads, and this is how you can use them. If you click once, it'll put it right in the middle. If you drag it, it'll often replace the image that's right there. And then I can still continue moving things around. Another thing you can do, you can go to photos. Canva has its own photos, so you might actually, there might be one in here you actually like better. This one you'll see, this little icon here says Pro. That means you have to have a Pro account in order to use it without a watermark. I think I'm logged into my Pro account right now. I'm not 100% sure. So if I drag this one over here, it'll just make it a background image really quickly like this, you can see. And I can also do play with transparency. So I can do this, or if I want this to be darker and have white, let's say I want this text to be white. Again, I'm just copying, I'm just highlighting within these boxes. If I make that white, I can also then click on my background image, click on effects, and there are all kinds of effects. I'm gonna do see all. Oh, these are all the bad TV ones. Let me see if there's any more. Or my little, oh, filter is what I wanted, sorry. Or adjust actually. I can make this darker, so now my white text pops on top of that. And then maybe I'll make all this text in this box white as well, if I'm using background images. So uploads are where you're gonna put in any file you make or you wanna use. And then photos are where you're gonna be able to get free or pro version of photos. Another thing you can do, I'm just gonna have a blank page right here, elements. Canva has shapes, so I might throw a shape on here. They also have frames, so this will control how an image looks. I'll maybe go back to photos and drag this image into the frame, boom. In the element section, they also have stickers, many of which are animated GIFs. Some are free, some are not. So I'm just gonna throw this one on here. Now, if you have an animated GIF and you want it to save as animated, just one quick thing, you have to click on download, save as GIF versus download, save as PNG or JPEG. So there's a lot of options for how you download. We'll get into that in a minute too. But there's animated stickers. You can also search any of these by, let's say I want a piece of corn on the cob. I think I just saw some and I was like, oh, I'm hungry. Let's do popcorn. This will show you all of the illustrations you can pick from, as well as any animated stickers that are also available in here. Now, many of these elements will be pro, so you kind of have to move around until you find the one that's not. And then you can make it bigger, make it smaller, do whatever you want. One thing you can do is if you have multiple Canva files open at one time, like right now I'm on different pages, but oftentimes I'll have multiple presentations up at the same time. I can copy Command C from one presentation into another, and then I can still edit it because these are what's called vector images, meaning that you can resize them. And what's very cool about some of their illustrations is I can change them to match brand. So right now I'm changing this one to match DePaul brand colors. So that's DePaul themed popcorn right here. All right, so in addition, all kinds of text. So you can start, any of your designs, you can start with a template, but you can also just throw text in that you like that and create a design from scratch. There's all kinds of, you can see on the left-hand navigation here, there's all kinds of different text. You know, maybe you start with the headline and then you figure out what goes on here. It'll tell you what the fonts are. You can change the fonts. You can change the color. Styles will help you pick some. I have brand colors already put in here, and you can have up to 3 brand colors for free. So I have DePaul's brand, but you can pick, let's say, a palette, and it'll help you see what that palette looks like. It'll change your background and some of these other fonts. We're not going to get into music and videos because we're already running out of time. I want to talk about 2 other tools besides Canva. Any questions? Let me stop sharing really quickly and see if there are any questions about Canva, any of the functions I've talked about.
I'm sorry, could you just repeat when I was coming in, you mentioned something about Pro versus the regular version. Are you saying that you have it because you just purchased it through DePaul, or are all DePaul like affiliates, do they have that type of program? I missed that.
So only an office has to purchase it for the number of users that they want to purchase it for. I can truly, if I didn't have Pro access, I wouldn't be paying for it. I don't really need it. It's nice to have for me because I'm sharing, like I'm doing a ton of design on all these presentations, but even if my office said we can't pay for it, I wouldn't need it. So I mean, I'm really curious how Canva's going to change. They just raised a ton of money. They're still technically a startup. I hope it never turns into exclusively pay to play. And the premium version isn't that expensive. It's not like LinkedIn Learning where I'm like, please don't ever pay for it. It's so expensive, but you can do so much without Pro. But if your office pays for it, like mine does, I'm like, fabulous. It's nice to have.
And then, yeah, I've done like, I think a flyer or something on there, and I noticed that I got like charged. I know they have like a fee for the flyer, but then I noticed on my account there's like an international something. But I know you did mention that it was Australia based. So I was like, are you familiar with that? Does that happen, or maybe because you have a Pro?
Yeah,
that's just small, like $1 or something. But still, I was like, well, what is this? Some type of international something?
Yeah, it might have been. You might have used a Pro element. And that's why I'm always really careful. In fact, I upload, if it's not in a template. So a lot of the best illustrations are in, like for presentations, are in the templates. They're not elements that you would search. You would find a presentation that has all kinds of cute assets in it already that's free. But I don't use any, because the Pro ones, they will charge you per download if there's a Pro illustration in there. So you do want to be careful about that. And I think at one point I did probably, I'm trying to remember if I had to give them my credit card just to set up an account. I may have. So you do want to be cautious about that. They'll also, they can print things for you too. That's a new part of their monetization, is providing printing. There's cheaper printing than what Canva offers. It's not wildly more expensive, but I wouldn't print through Canva. But I think their model might change a little bit. So I would be careful about the Pro illustrations, because that's where sometimes you can accidentally not realize it's there.
Was there anything, I know I just kind of came in on that one. Was there anything else really that you may have touched on within like the first 10 minutes? I'm somewhat vaguely familiar with the program. I've just started using it, but I just want to know if there's anything else, because I came in on the Pro conversation.
So yeah, we talked about some design basics that you'll get in the slide deck. They're really kind of just more vocabulary for design basics, the elements of design. What I will also send you, Canva has the most fabulous tutorials that are totally free. So you should, I'll include that in the follow-up email.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, now I'm going to talk really quickly about 2 other tools. Let's start with Unsplash because it's the easiest one to talk about. Let me get back into my presentation and do present and then do share screen. And then we'll talk about Creative Market, which for anyone who really wants to level up, Creative Market is the next step after Canva. All right, so I talked about Canva. Now I'm going to talk about Unsplash, but I'm going to skip this one because we're going to do Creative Market last. Sorry, my son is interrupting me. What do you want, dude?
Well, what that,
Sorry.
I don't know what that.
Okay, I'm doing a presentation. I will help you in about 10 minutes. Cool? All right. So Unsplash is one of my favorite sources for royalty-free images. They do give you, so there's information really here about their license, but you can search by anything. So I'm just going to put education in. And all of these are high res and available for you to use anywhere that is not for profit, right? If you were thinking of using something, and you can see on the license, you can download directly from this page or go in here. And then when you do pick download free, it will say, hey, if you can, give a shout out to this person if you're using it in a social media post or etc. So you don't have to, you're not required to, but Unsplash is for me the best source for royalty-free images. But if you're worried about it, I also do recommend the Google image search. You can actually search Google images by royalty-free. So sometimes you might want to say, all right, let's do education. The problem with Google image versus Unsplash is there's a lot more garbage on here. So to do a good job with this, I click on tools and then I do large only. And then I also do usage rights. Now, if you do usage rights, it will only be people who've taken the time to make it eligible for Creative Commons. So you're not always going to find the volume that you would want to find. So I pretty much exclusively use Unsplash unless I don't find anything I like on it. The only bad part about Unsplash is you will see, let me see if I can find one. There's a lot of images that you will recognize from a million places. It'll drive you crazy. Like there's particularly one guy with a red beard who is, I feel like is everywhere. Oh good, he's not showing up right now. Because these are royalty free. So you'll see, actually I've seen an increased number of businesses that are using Canva templates, you know, not just tiny companies. And then obviously some of these will look familiar to you from other websites, but that's why when you're on Canva, you do want to think about using an image correctly. I mean, it's okay if it's a stock image, you just want to make it look good. Like this is not a great example. Like that's so obviously a stock image. That's why recently I've been using a lot of illustration from Canva because it's just a little more, little less stocky. All right, let's get into Creative Market. We don't have that much time. What I really want to show you here is Creative Market is a website where designers can sell their work as templates or as completed designs for you to use. What's really interesting about it is it's a global website. So a lot of these designers are in Eastern Europe, in different parts of Asia, all over the world. And because they are selling this through this website, some of the costs are incredible. So I'm going to show you really quickly some of my recent purchases. I use, let's see, I'll go to my favorites. Let's do, I clicked on the wrong thing. I've been using Creative Market files for a long time. So I bought a set of, like I'll buy a set of illustrations occasionally. This is a good example. Like this is a single, I bought this. What's cool about it is you can see it comes as an Adobe Illustrator file, a JPEG, or a vector file. So there's 3 formats. This for me, if you're someone who wants to teach yourself Adobe InDesign or Adobe Illustrator, starting with a file from a site like this can help you learn a tool because it's already made by a good designer. So that's an illustration. Let's go to, let's do, and you can see presentations. They actually have this is a whole new category of like Canva ready files, which is pretty cool, meaning you just upload this stuff. We talked a little bit about stock images and how it looks really stocky, but there's a lot of cool Canva files. I recently bought one of these and it worked pretty well. But let's go into logos. This is a great example. Now you could conceivably, if you wanted to create a logo for yourself, for someone else, or play with it, you can see this is, some of these are editable, meaning you could go into, let's get a close up. You could get into here and put whatever text you want up here. Like right now it says summer sale now. Let me make this bigger. But with these files, you could go in and change 50% to whatever text you wanted. And some of this stuff is already basically created in different kinds of files. You have to look to see, and there are a lot of bundles on here. So this is a bundle of 50 editable logo templates. This is $25 for commercial, $22 for personal. So it's not free. So you want to keep that in mind. In terms of the things I've bought, let me just see if there's anything on here that I can kind of show you. I have bought every once in a while, if I need something really specific, it's worth it to me. Like this is an piece of artwork I used for a presentation I was giving and then a printout I was doing. This is not a stock photo I would find right away. It was very specific to something I was trying to do. I think this costs like $6. It was worth it to me to pay that. But I also really think Creative Market is so beneficial for anyone who wants to learn a tool and learn how to use one of these files. So for example, there's a whole section of mockups that you can purchase, and then you own the file and you can play with it and do whatever you want. So this is for package design. Not everyone's gonna wanna do package design or a mockup for like a fake catalog. But if you are, this is next level from Canva. So Canva, you're gonna really learn the basics and be able to do whatever you want. This, when you buy this, this file actually has this image ready to go where you can edit what's on the surface here. You know, you can create your own logo for like a fake cosmetic company. They do, some are not super inexpensive, but it's a great place to know that it exists for when you need it. And you can search by Illustrator, Photoshop, etc. You can do a keyword search. So I'm just going to do education. And you can, I actually use Creative Market for design inspiration when I'm looking for, oh, what would look cool? What's a vibe that I'm looking for? And it's a great way to kind of just see all the options in one place. So this, for example, this is kind of a lot, you'll see a lot of imagery looking like this right now. You might, someone should probably be muting. I can hear it. It sounds like someone's walking, which is fine, but you might want to mute. But this is a great example of like, as trends shift, you'll start to see kind of styles emerge and shift a little bit. And I love using Creative Market to kind of stay abreast of how things are looking and what people are doing. Let's get back into here. Let me see if there's any questions on creative. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just had a quick question. What is vector exactly? Is that like the type? Is that, I know you said the format, is that like the look, the finish? What is that?
A vector image, I don't know the technicalities, but a vector image is saved in such a way that you can always resize it without losing quality. Okay. And I believe like this relates to Adobe Illustrator and InDesign. It's a vector image. If it's not a vector image and you resize it, it'll pixelate, right? Right. But a vector image is saved in such a way, and I should know this, but again, I'm design adjacent, right?
No, that's pretty clear. And then the other part of that was, I think that's the phone down there making noise. What's the difference between personal, commercial, and extended? I saw that on there as well.
Yeah, so commercial is anything where you are going to be receiving money for it, right? I don't actually have a lot of, because I work in higher ed, I'll sometimes do commercial because I'm like, I'm not making money, but you know, and we're a not-for-profit, so I could be doing personal, but I don't want to cross the line. Commercial extended, you'll click on that and it'll tell you like basically what that means in here. That's getting into like a whole separate, like the legalities around that stuff. So that's kind of a whole separate list, but I will add a resource that I include in the follow-up kind of explaining the difference between those. I never have to deal with
Maggie, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, whoever I interrupted. Can you mute me? Because I'm the one that's walking.
Gotcha. All right. I forgot I could do that. Okay. Sorry. And if you want to unmute, you'll have to chat or something. One last thing. I know I'm going a little bit over time. If more questions about Creative Market, anybody? You can create an account for free and browse for free. You don't ever have to buy anything. I think it's a really good way to get ideas for design. Behance is one of the, I mean, things have changed, but behance.com is a portfolio site for graphic designers. So if you also want to get ideas for like very cool design, I'll include that in the follow-up. It's also in the chat. That is, I mean, lots of people have their own sites now, but that used to be the only place that designers would really like all put their work, just to get ideas for it. So let's get back into, I think I just have like 2 more slides. Share screen. Let's get over to here. All right. And then I want to make sure, okay, we talked about Unsplash. All right, so bonus content is this Creative Market link that, here, let me actually get out of here, and I will post this link in the chat in case you guys want to check it out. And it's 10 ways to basically teach yourself design. Let me copy and paste this into the chat. Some people, you know, like everyone has a very different aesthetic, so it's not that there's a right or wrong, but I think more than anything, it's about how do you play with these tools, and also how do you get exposure to those tools, because design is really more about seeing what other people are doing and getting a sense of, you know, what you like and what would work for you. I also want to make sure you guys know what we can do for you guys in the Career Center: drop-in career coaching, virtual appointments, email resume review, career library, Handshake, alumni sharing knowledge, all of that. If you've been in one of these before, you've seen this slide. Career library, of course. Finally, guys, there's only a couple more things happening this quarter, and you can see Project Managing Your Job Search is Wednesday the 18th. A job search marathon, which is like, you'll have to look, basically a more involved version where we actually as a group work on job search together. That's happening on Thursday, December 3rd. And then your basic job and internship 101 is happening Wednesday, December 9th. We'll have our winter calendar up soon. We don't have that yet, but those are coming. If you have ideas for skills labs for winter, let me know. I'm designing those or deciding what those are in the next couple weeks. I'm also going to launch a quick event checkout poll. If you guys have time, if you could answer some of our questions. We do this every time because we're curious about where folks are at and eager to get feedback. And then while you guys are just finishing up that poll, I'll take any other questions you might have.
Maggie, I have a quick question. Can you send this PowerPoint slide to me via my email?
Yes, and if it's the email you use to RSVP, that is the one that will go to. I'll be sending it out tomorrow. I'll send you the slide deck, some of the links I'm referring to, as well as a link to the video recording of this presentation.
Now you said one of them, you